We are witnessing the most consequential wealth concentration in human history, and artificial intelligence is accelerating it at breathtaking speed. In 2025, technology billionaires control $5.2 trillion, 32% of all billionaire wealth on Earth. Global billionaire wealth surged by $2 trillion in 2024 alone, bringing their total holdings to $15 trillion worldwide, with 204 new billionaires created in 2024, nearly 4 every week. This represents not just increasing inequality, it represents a fundamental restructuring of how wealth concentrates in an artificial intelligence-powered world. The richest 1% of the global population now owns 45% of all wealth, while 44% of humanity lives on less than $6.85 per day, according to World Bank poverty lines. This statistic captures something profound. While billionaires accumulate wealth at extraordinary rates, the majority of humanity remains in grinding poverty. Artificial intelligence is not closing this gap, it is expanding it at accelerating speed. The wealth of the world's 10 richest men grew by almost $100 million per day in 2024. This daily accumulation exceeds the lifetime earnings of millions of ordinary workers. Even if these individuals lost 99% of their wealth overnight, they would remain billionaires, a statistic that illustrates the incomprehensible scale of modern wealth concentration. This mathematical reality reveals something that transcends economics. It reveals power structures that have become almost incomprehensibly unequal. When AI exacerbates inequality, academic research reveals a troubling temporal dynamic in how artificial intelligence affects wealth. AI's effects on wealth inequality show a temporal dichotomy. In the short term, AI exacerbates disparities in wealth distribution, while the long-term outcomes depend on the extent of AI's influence across different technological domains. This distinction is critical. In the period we are living through right now, the next 5 to 10 years, artificial intelligence is making wealth inequality worse, not better. In the short term, AI exacerbates disparities in wealth distribution, while the long-term outcomes depend on the extent of AI's influence across different technological domains. The reason this happens is counterintuitive but powerful. When firms can choose how much AI to adopt, the wealth inequality effect is particularly pronounced, as the potential cost savings from automating high-wage tasks drive significantly higher adoption rates. This means companies that can afford to deploy AI aggressively will do so, capturing enormous productivity gains and profits that flow primarily to shareholders rather than workers. When your skills make you vulnerable, the most insidious aspect of AI's impact on inequality is what economists call complementarity. Two factors counter the effect of high-wage worker displacement. These workers' tasks appear highly complementary with AI, potentially increasing their productivity, and they are better positioned to benefit from higher capital returns. This means that white-collar workers whose skills complement artificial intelligence, financial analysts using AI tools, doctors using diagnostic AI, lawyers using legal research AI, become dramatically more productive and valuable. But this increased productivity benefits capital owners more than the workers themselves. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, stated that if AI does to white-collar work what globalization did to blue-collar work, we need to confront that directly, not with abstractions about the jobs of tomorrow, but with a credible plan for broad participation in the gains. Fink is essentially warning that artificial intelligence could devastate white-collar employment the same way globalization devastated manufacturing employment in developed nations. When millions of factory workers lost jobs to overseas competitors, communities experienced hollowing out that persists decades later. Could the same thing happen to office workers and professionals? When nations fall behind, the inequality expansion extends far beyond individuals to entire nations. The United States alone secured $67.2 billion in AI-related private investments in 2023, which was 8.7 times more than China, the second highest country in this regard, with high-income countries holding a distinct advantage in capturing economic value from AI thanks to superior digital infrastructure, abundant AI development resources, and advanced data systems. AI could reinforce the dominance of wealthier nations in high-value sectors like finance, pharmaceuticals, advanced manufacturing, and defense, as richer countries use AI to enhance productivity and innovation, making it harder for poorer countries to penetrate these markets. This represents a fundamental threat to the catching up growth that has characterized the last several decades. For the first time since the 1980s, developing nations are falling behind rather than catching up to developed nations. While AI is poised to primarily disrupt skill-intensive jobs more prevalent in advanced economies, it can also undermine lower-cost labor in developing countries, with automation in manufacturing, logistics, and quality control enabling wealthier nations to produce goods more efficiently, reducing the need for low-wage foreign workers. This creates a double squeeze on developing economies. They cannot compete on wages anymore because automation eliminates the low-cost labor advantage, and they do not have the capital or expertise to compete on artificial intelligence innovation. When AI could reduce some inequality, despite the alarming trends, some research suggests a more optimistic possibility. AI could reduce wage inequality through the displacement of high-income workers, unlike previous waves of automation that increased both wage and wealth inequality. This theory suggests that if artificial intelligence primarily disrupts high-income professional jobs, lawyers, doctors, accountants, financial analysts, it could actually compress the wage gap between high-income and middle-income workers. In the most optimistic scenario, widespread AI adoption boosts productivity and revenue growth at companies, along with employee wages, even for the industries and jobs most automatable through AI. With productivity growth leading to rising GDP growth, real wage increases for most workers, and expanded societal prosperity overall. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang offered a perspective along these lines: you are not going to lose your job to an AI, but you are going to lose your job to someone who uses AI. The policy intervention imperative. The critical question is not what will happen to inequality in some abstract future state, but rather what policy choices we make right now. Researchers propose policy interventions to mitigate potential exacerbation of wealth inequality due to AI advancements, for example, through secondary distribution mechanisms and policy choices that balance growth incentives with wealth distribution objectives by fostering progress in Hicks-neutral technologies. Business leaders and policymakers should take several steps to build trust, with technology companies needing to prove that AI is secure, be transparent about its abilities and limitations, and show that their offerings have measurable value, and company leaders putting sufficient guardrails around the use of AI, including the data it draws on and the use of AI-generated insights and recommendations. These interventions require aggressive action from governments, not passive acceptance of market forces. Where real wealth accumulates, AI-driven automation boosts productivity and wages, but disproportionately benefits capital returns, intensifying wealth disparities. This captures the fundamental mechanism. When artificial intelligence increases productivity, the returns flow primarily to capital owners, the shareholders who own the companies deploying AI, rather than to workers whose productivity increased. Platform companies extract value from user data and network effects, creating winner-take-all markets that generate enormous returns for owners while offering precarious gig work for millions of participants. This dynamic means that even if workers' wages increase modestly, capital returns increase dramatically more, accelerating the shift of wealth from labor to capital. We are witnessing the largest transfer of economic power from workers to capital owners in modern history. The future of AI-driven wealth and financial power will not be determined by technology alone, it will be determined by policy choices. Fink was referring to the need for global business and political leaders to be proactive in figuring out how to ensure workers are not left out of the financial growth AI is likely to create. This is the central challenge. Can societies harness the productivity gains from artificial intelligence in ways that broadly benefit populations? Or will those gains concentrate even more narrowly among capital owners and those with AI skills? The data from 2024 and 2025 suggests the trajectory is toward greater concentration. But the future remains unwritten. The choices we make about AI taxation, education, regulation, and wealth distribution will determine whether artificial intelligence becomes a tool for broadly shared prosperity or the ultimate instrument for concentrating wealth in ways that undermine social cohesion and democratic institutions. The artificial intelligence revolution is not about technology, it is about power, and the distribution of that power will define the next century.